Welcome to the Mangalove channel. Today, we would like to introduce to you a story about a werewolf marked me as his mate. Now he shows up at my window every full moon like it's normal. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Mangalove so you won't miss any of the newest stories. Now, let's dive right into today's story. Chapter 1. The Full Moon Disaster. The night was supposed to be peaceful, just Leon, a cup of cardamom tea, and the quiet hum of his old cabin heater. But peace was apparently allergic to him. The first crash came like thunder, shattering glass, splintering wood, a howl that wasn't entirely human. Leon jerked up from his chair, sloshing tea across the counter. The kitchen window was a mosaic of broken glass and cold mist, and in the middle of it all was a man, a very naked, very large, and very unconscious man. Leon's brain sputtered. Oh, come on. The man groaned, dragging in air through clenched teeth, eyes flickering silver in the moonlight. His body was halfway between man and beast, shoulders dusted with fur, claws half-formed and retracting, the wild scent of pine and smoke rolling off him like heat from a bonfire. Leon reached for the nearest weapon. Unfortunately, that was a frying pan. "Okay," he muttered, brandishing it like an idiot. "You have 5 seconds to explain the nudity before I—" The man's head lolled toward him, eyes locking on his face. "Faded partner," he rasped, and promptly collapsed onto the rug. Silence, mist coiled through the broken window. The scent was dizzying, cool forest air threaded with something darker, like amber warmed by fire. Leon stood frozen for a beat too long, heart pounding so hard it rattled his ribs. He lowered the pan with a sigh.
Do you people not believe in pants? By the time Leon managed to drag the stranger away from the glass, he was sweating and swearing in equal measure. The man was heavy, solid muscle, every inch of him cut and bruised, and hot, literally radiating body heat like a space heater with a death wish. Leon threw a blanket over him, muttering under his breath, "You better not be contagious or a cultist or whatever kind of furry apocalypse this is." The stranger twitched, a low growl vibrating his chest. Leon froze again. The man's breathing steadied, though, and for a moment, Leon just looked. He was beautiful in a wild way. Ash blonde hair tangled against tan skin, jaw shadowed with stubble. The blanket slipped, revealing a gash along his ribs that looked deep and messy. Leon grimaced, kneeling beside him. He couldn't just leave him bleeding out on the rug. He fetched the first aid kit, hands shaking as he cleaned the wound. The man flinched once, then relaxed, breath stirring against Leon's wrist. When Leon leaned closer, he caught that scent again. Pine and smoke, threaded with something warm and strangely familiar. The moment stretched thin. The stranger's lashes fluttered, lips parting with a quiet sigh. His hand twitched, then landed on Leon's thigh. Leon nearly leapt out of his skin. Hey, no touching while unconscious. Basic rule of civilization. The man's eyes opened, silver gray, dazed but aware. His voice was a rough purr. Instincts. Leon blinked at him. Instincts? Is that what we're calling it now? The man, Declan, as Leon would later learn, shifted his hand away, an apology flickering across his face. Didn't mean to crowd. Well, Leon muttered, cheeks warm despite himself, you did spectacularly. Declan's gaze softened. You smell safe. Leon stilled. Okay, that's weird. We don't say that to people we just met. Declan's mouth curved faintly, too tired to argue. He slumped back, eyes fluttering shut again. Leon sat there a while longer, pulse refusing to slow. He told himself it was adrenaline. Definitely not attraction. Definitely not the way Declan's voice had dipped when he said, safe. He tugged the blanket higher and retreated to the couch, muttering, "If you turn into a raccoon or something, I'm moving." Morning came, gray and cold, fog curling through the broken window frame. Declan was awake now, sitting cross-legged on the rug, blanket pulled around his waist. "Good morning," he said, his voice raspy but steady. Leon, still in pajamas and mid-sip of tea, squinted. "Define good. My window's dead." Declan tilted his head. "I'll fix it." You break it, you buy it. That's a rule of the house. Okay, Declan said simply, his gaze dropping to Leon's shoulder. How's your bite? Leon nearly choked on his tea. My what? Declan frowned as if confused by Leon's confusion. Your mark. I made it when you pulled me from the alley. Oh, that was you. Leon set the cup down hard. I thought some random dog bit me while I was saving a stranger. You're telling me that was you? I was delirious. Hunters were close. Declan's tone carried no shame, just quiet fact. The mark tells others you're under my protection. It wasn't meant to hurt. Leon gaped. Protection? You bit me? He paused. Look, humans use words for that sort of thing. Declan blinked. It wasn't a proposal. Not helping. They stared at each other. Leon exasperated, Declan looking like he'd just said something reasonable. The difference between them was almost comical. Leon rubbed his temples. So, let me get this straight. You were running from hunters, plural, and thought, you know what'll help? Biting a total stranger? Declan's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. It worked. I'm alive, barely, and marked. Leon tugged the collar of his shirt aside. Faint teeth marks glowed pale against his skin. They didn't hurt. If anything, they felt warm, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat under his collarbone. He hated how that made him feel. Declan followed the motion, his expression softening. I didn't mean to cross your boundaries. Leon blinked, thrown by the sincerity. Most guys who broke into your kitchen half-naked didn't sound like they'd just read a consent pamphlet. He exhaled, shoulders slumping. All right, fine. You were half-dead. I get it. Just maybe no more biting. Declan nodded. Serious. Agreed. And no more windows. I'll knock. Leon arched a brow. Or, wild idea, use the door like normal people. Declan grinned just enough to show a hint of teeth. Normal is subjective. They moved into an uneasy truce. Leon found Declan some clothes, a spare flannel and sweatpants that were a little too short, but better than a blanket toga. Declan made himself useful, repairing the shattered frame with surprising skill. His hands were steady, rough palms calloused from something other than woodworking. Every so often, Leon caught him glancing over, eyes tracking Leon's movements with a focus that felt intimate. Not predatory, not even romantic yet, just attentive. It made Leon's stomach flip. When the window was finally intact again, Leon crossed his arms. All right, you've fixed the damage, eaten all my cereal, and traumatized me for life. Anything else before you disappear into the mist like a folklore fever dream? Declan hesitated. I'll come back. Leon blinked. That's not a no. Full moon nights, Declan said as if it explained everything. Instinct says to check on my mate. Leon threw up his hands. We are not. Whatever you think this is, it's not that. Declan just smiled faintly, something wistful behind it. Still, thank you for saving me. He turned toward the door, sunlight catching on the edge of his hair. The scent of pine and amber followed him. Clean, wild, too alive to ignore. Leon stood in the doorway as Declan stepped out into the misty forest. Tall and steady now, shoulders squared. The air felt colder the second he was gone. Leon touched the bandage at his shoulder. It pulsed faintly under his fingers, warmth blooming beneath the skin. It didn't hurt, it just lingered. He frowned at the empty path, muttering, if this is some supernatural prank, I want a refund. A distant howl echoed through the morning fog, low, drawn out, unmistakably familiar. Leon's breath caught. He told himself it was just the woods being weird, just an animal, just coincidence. Still, when he closed the door, the corners of his mouth curved before he could stop them. Chapter 2. Naked Werewolf, Closed Curtains, 1 week. That's how long Leon managed to pretend his life was normal again. He almost convinced himself the full moon fiasco was a one-time event, a strange, dreamlike accident brought on by too much caffeine and bad luck. Then came the knocking. 3 slow raps at the door. He froze mid-sip of his coffee. The sound came again, gentle, deliberate, and somehow expectant. Leon cracked the door open, ready to deliver a lecture, and promptly shut it again. He reopened it with a look of disbelief. Declan? Declan grinned like a man greeting the sunrise. Leon, you're in boxers, Leon said flatly. Technically, Declan corrected. And a leather jacket. That's not clothing, that's foreplay for frostbite. Declan frowned down at himself, unbothered. The jacket covers 90% of me. That's basically a shirt. Leon pinched the bridge of his nose. Mathematically, no. Socially, absolutely not. Declan just smiled wider. Progress, though? Barely, Leon muttered, motioning him inside before Mrs. Haddad across the lane could spot him. Get in before you ruin my reputation. Inside, Declan looked around the cabin like he belonged there already. His hair was still damp from the lake, drops sliding down the curve of his throat. Leon hated that his brain noticed things like that now. Declan sniffed the air. You smell anxious. You smell illegal, Leon shot back. He pulled open a drawer and grabbed a notepad. We're making a calendar. Declan blanked. For what? For your visits, which will now have rules. Rule number 1, clothes. Rule number 2, don't break anything. Rule number 3, announce yourself like a civilized being. Declan leaned closer, eyes bright with amusement. Rule number 4, Leon scribbled hard enough to tear the page, don't flirt while half naked. Declan chuckled low in his chest, the sound curling between them like smoke. You keep making that rule because you keep breaking it. They sat at the small kitchen table, Leon drawing up a full moon schedule complete with acceptable time slots and emergency call notes. Declan examined the list like it was sacred law. You humans ritualize everything. Helps prevent window casualties. Declan's grin softened. You like having things in order. Leon glanced at him. You sound surprised? I like that about you, Declan said simply. The words landed heavier than they should have. Leon busied himself with taping the calendar to the fridge, refusing to look at the grin that was too open, too honest. Rule number 5, he muttered, no compliments before coffee. Later that afternoon, Declan decided to practice knocking. Leon should have known better than to encourage him. Declan stood in the hallway, facing the door like it was a final exam. I approach, I knock, I wait. Correct. Yes, Leon said, you're a fast learner. Declan raised his hand. He tapped once, twice, then leaned in too close. His palms landed on the wall near Leon's shoulders, bodies suddenly inches apart. The air between them shifted, sharp and electric. Leon froze. Declan's eyes caught the light, silver again in the dim hall. He smelled like pine and rain, cool, grounding. Leon's breath hitched, the space between them pulsing like a living thing. Then Declan blanked, realization dawning. He stepped back instantly. Hands up. Didn't mean to crowd you. Leon's pulse was a drumbeat in his ears. He managed a shaky laugh. You really don't do halfway, do you? Declan's smile was small, almost apologetic. It's hard to remember boundaries when you smell like that. Leon swallowed. Like what? Declan hesitated, then murmured. Home. Silence stretched, sweet and suffocating. Leon's mouth moved before his brain caught up. Maybe I didn't mind. Declan's eyes widened, but Leon quickly turned away, cheeks hot. Anyway, you passed the lesson. You can stop practicing before my door gives up on life. Declan chuckled softly, the sound warm as a caress. Duly noted. By evening, rain had rolled in, drumming against the roof while they shared coffee at the table. Leon added extra cardamom, the scent weaving through the room like heat itself. Declan watched the swirling steam as if mesmerized. So, Declan said, explain dating. Leon nearly spilled his drink. Dating? You mentioned it, Declan said. Human courtship rituals. How do you do that? Leon leaned back, wary. Why? Planning to open a Tinder account? Declan tilted his head. If that's where people find partners, perhaps. Leon snorted. You'd get banned in 5 minutes. Interests, running under the moon and forgetting pants. Declan laughed, a deep, warm sound that filled the cabin. Leon couldn't help smiling back. Dating's just, Leon gestured vaguely, spending time with someone, talking, maybe dinner, movies, walks. It's about choice, not instinct. Declan nodded slowly, his gaze intent.
I see. For us, attraction is scent, energy. You know when someone's compatible, like pheromones, Leon said. Declan's mouth quirked. Exactly. Though I've never had one last past a moon. Leon raised a brow. And how many compatible scents have you sniffed? Declan pretended to think. A few, once in a while. The casual tone sent a quick, hot flare of something ugly through Leon's chest.
Jealousy wasn't a color that suited him, but it painted him anyway. He took a slow sip of coffee, masking it with a smirk. Wow, busy wolf. Declan's grin faltered. It's not like that. They never felt right. Leon shrugged. Not my business. Declan studied him quietly. It could be. Leon looked up sharply. Declan's expression wasn't teasing this time, just open, gentle, like an offer he didn't expect to be taken. Leon swallowed hard, heart stuttering. Don't start something you can't finish. Declan smiled faintly. Who says I can't? The rain eased by nightfall, and Leon thought the chaos had finally passed, until he heard Mrs. Haddad's voice from across the road. Leon, is that a half-naked man on your porch again? Leon groaned, burying his face in his hands. Kill me now. Declan peeked out the window. She's waving. She's judging, Leon hissed. He grabbed an oversized hoodie from the hook by the door and threw it at Declan's head. Put this on before she calls animal control. Declan laughed as he pulled it over his head. The hoodie swallowed him whole, sleeves dangling past his hands, the hem brushing his thighs. He looked ridiculous and unfairly good. Better? Declan asked, stepping outside. Leon followed, trying not to stare. Better, he said, though his voice betrayed him. Mrs. Haddad waved again, binoculars gleaming like the eyes of divine punishment. Declan waved back cheerfully. Fantastic, Leon muttered. Now she thinks we're domestic partners, Declan whined. We did make a calendar. Leon glared. Don't you dare use logic on me. They stood side by side on the porch, the air crisp after rain. The scent of pine mingled with cardamom, that same impossible harmony that made Leon's chest ache. Declan's hand brushed his, accidentally, or maybe not. Their fingers lingered for a heartbeat before both pulled back. Declan spoke softly. I like rules. They make things clear. Good, Leon said, because I've got new ones. Declan's tone turned teasing. More? Always? Leon met his eyes. You ask before you visit, you wear clothes, and if I say stop, you stop. No instinct, no excuses. Declan's gaze softened. Understood. The air between them warmed again. The soft creak of the porch boards, the hush of dripping leaves, their breaths mingling in quiet rhythm. It felt dangerously close to peace. Leon cleared his throat. So we're good? Declan nodded. Better than good. Leon opened his mouth to reply, but Declan suddenly looked at his palms, sniffed them, and smiled to himself. What? Leon asked, wary. Declan lifted his eyes, that grin curling, slow and satisfied. Cardamom? Leon blinked. Did you just smell your hands? Maybe. Declan. What? You smell nice? Leon threw up his hands. You're impossible. Declan laughed, walking backward down the steps, rain glinting in his hair. Then it's a good thing you like challenges. Leon watched him disappear down the misty road. That grin burned behind his eyelids. He stood there a long while, hoodie still damp from Declan's heat. The scent of pine and amber clinging to the night air. Somewhere deep in his chest, something shifted. Quiet, reluctant, and real. Chapter 3. Moonlight, Mouths, and Leon. Maybe Leon hadn't agreed to a date so much as he'd been talked into fresh air with snacks. Declan had said the pack hosted a lantern festival every few months, music, food stalls, no pressure, and that it would be nice to breathe without a ceiling. Leon suspected there were ulterior motives, specifically Declan wanting to put him where the whole pack could assess, sniff, and decide whether to welcome or worry. Still, there he was, tugging at the sleeves of a black sweater that made his cheekbones look sharper and his reservations more obvious. The forest clearing glittered like a pocket of stars had spilled to earth. Paper lanterns hung in uneven rows from branch to branch, swinging softly in the midnight breeze. String lights wrapped trunks like luminous vines. Food stalls lined the edges. Grilled corn, fire-hot skewers, something gamey and rich that made Leon's stomach growl despite nerves. Wolves, people, really, with quick eyes and laughter that cracked like kindling, milled in loose knots, moving with the unconscious synchronicity of a flock. Declan met him at the edge of the path, hair wind-toweled, sweater sleeves shoved to his forearms. The scent of frost pine and smoked amber from him threaded through the cool night. He looked Leon over the way one looks at the first clear sky after rain, relieved, a little disbelieving. "You came against my better judgment," Leon said, pretending not to notice the way Declan's gaze lingered on his mouth. "You promised snacks." "I deliver on promises," Declan said. The words were simple, but felt weighty, as if he were secretly vowing more. They stepped into the clearing shoulder to shoulder. Conversations hiccuped around them, heads tilted, nostrils flared. Leon kept his focus on a stall selling fried dough dusted with sugar. He would use carbohydrates as emotional armor, but whispers would find them anyway. Quick threads of gossip turned silk slick by lantern light. "That's him, the human, marked and doesn't even know. Pretty for a..." Leon's flush began at his throat and worked its way to his ears. Declan heard it before Leon saw it, the shift in air, the almost wolfish tilt of a cluster of shoulders near the cider barrel. He moved instinctively closer, a half step that said, "with me," without touching. It was something between a shield and a question. Leon found it strangely sweet and also infuriating. He didn't need a bodyguard, he needed people to stop making him a topic. He stood taller, lifted his chin, and purchased a paper cone of dough. Declan paid before Leon could fish out his wallet, which earned him a narrow-eyed look that only made him grin. A broad-shouldered guy with hair like rough-cut copper swaggered up, arms slung over the shoulders of a woman who wore pride like perfume. "Declan," the guy drawled, "you going to introduce us to your human mate or keep hoarding?" If Declan flinched, it was in his eyes, Quicksilver. He attempted shield version 2, humor. "Ronan, this is Leon. Leon, the pack's worst." "Answer," Ronan said cheerfully, thrusting out a hand. His palm was warm, dry, strong. He sniffed, an unconscious little flare of nostrils that Leon filed under, "Not rude here, probably." "You smell like something good." "Don't finish that sentence," Leon advised, shaking once and releasing, "or I'll start describing you as barnyard with an ego." Ronan's bark of laughter was honest and loud. "He's perfect. Don't mess this up." "Already doing my best," Declan said under his breath, lips barely moving. They moved through the clearing as if through weather, patches of curiosity, gusts of attention, warm pockets where no one cared. Declan kept trying to stand between Leon and the stairs, which helped sometimes and made Leon feel like a museum exhibit the rest. A woman about Declan's age, with hair braided close to her scalp, came up and pinched Declan's cheekbone hard enough to make him yelp. "You told no one!" She turned to Leon with a sincere smile. "Forgive him. He speaks in howls and acts in secrets." "I'll forgive him when he stops breaking my window," Leon said, which earned him a chorus of appreciative mises. The woman grinned. "May," she introduced herself. "I pull idiots out of brambles for this pack. If you ever need your human bits unsplintered, ask." "I'll try not to need that," Leon said. He liked her immediately. She nudged Declan's shoulder with hers on the way out, a conspiratorial shove that contained 100 unspoken histories. But for every May, there were 3 more who leaned in too close with questions that felt like hooks. "So you knew he bit you?" asked one guy with moon-blind eyes. "Did you like it?" murmured someone else, like they were discussing flavors of tea, not bodily autonomy. "What's it like being claimed by instinct?" a woman asked, her voice soft as if softness made intrusion gentler. Declan stepped between them, a wall made of patience, without touching. "Enough," he tried. "It isn't a spectacle." But wolves lived in packs. Curiosity spread like electricity. Friendly ribbing heated around the edges. Invisible lines erased by communal ease. Leon's smile calcified. The fried dough cooled, uneaten. He excused himself with a muttered bathroom and slid away before Declan could catch his sleeve. The trees opened to the lake like a ribcage to a heart. The surface of the water glittered with smudged stars and swinging lantern light. The dock reached out like a finger toward the silver-slashed distance. Leon walked it to the end, breath clouding. The air smelled like wet wood and cold. The night held him close without asking questions. He put his hands on the rail and exhaled. He could still taste sugar on his tongue. Beneath it, cardamom. Beneath that, something he refused to name. Footsteps softened as they neared, not trying to hide, not presuming welcome. Declan stopped a little distance away and waited, gaze on the water. "I'm sorry," he said. Leon kept his eyes forward. "For the lanterns, or for your pack, acting like a new toy?" "For both," Declan said simply. "I should have prepared you. I thought—" He huffed a humorless breath. "I didn't think. I just wanted you there with me." The admission was stark and unadorned. Leon studied it, then the reflection of both of them. 2 smears of light side by side. "They're not bad," he said, "just loud." "They think teasing is welcome because they love," Declan said. "They forget love isn't an excuse." That word love should have clanged. It didn't. He wasn't applying it to Leon. He was describing a context, a kind of weather. Still, Leon felt something tilt inside. Declan shifted, finally facing Leon fully. The lines of him were clear, even in the dark. Broad shoulders, hands that looked like they could crush, and had learned instead to mend windows. That mouth that did terrible things to Leon's composure when it softened. "You don't have to be marked to be mine," Declan said, almost voiceless. The words spun the air and landed with impossible gentleness. "You don't have to be anything except you." The mark wasn't the point. Leon breathed in, wet lake, night, and pine. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions and none. He settled for, "Even if I never?" Declan didn't rush to fill the shape of what Leon wasn't saying. He breathed once, twice, and answered, "Then I'll learn to want less loudly." Leon turned then, slow, because it felt like the world might break if he moved too fast. Declan wasn't close. He'd stayed that careful distance, a leash he'd placed around himself, as if trust were a thing you train by starving it of assumption. Leon lifted a hand. That was all. His fingers hovered near Declan's jaw, not touching, an invitation measurable in millimeters. Declan didn't lean in or away. His eyes softened at the edges, as if something in him exhaled after a long hold. "Okay," Leon said, and in the word was a door swinging open on silent hinges. Declan stepped through it, without taking a step. They walked back slowly, not because the path was uneven, but because returning too quickly felt like waking. The bonfire ring was a low orange eye in the clearing. Conversations had dropped in volume. Music now hummed under laughter. A cluster of younger wolves was doing something that involved clapping off beat and elbows. Ronan pretended to juggle apples and failed. May stole one and ate it with the relish of a greyhound stealing a roast. Lanterns in a smaller ring at the far end of the clearing waited with little slips of paper and twine. Leon watched a girl fold a wish into hers and let it go. It rose with the others, a soft constellation casting moving gold across faces turned upward. "Make one," Declan murmured, and pressed a blank card into Leon's palm. "You don't even know what I want," Leon said, but he took the pencil anyway. His handwriting looked small and careful under the lantern light. When he finished, he didn't show it to Declan, but he felt Declan's gaze like warmth on the side of his face. They lit their lantern together. Fire caught and gentled, the paper belly warming to glow. A hush pressed the clearing like a hand. The wind steadied in the tall trees. Leon lifted the lantern in both hands. Declan reached up too, fingers skimming the back of Leon's hand before falling away. Leon glanced down without meaning to. Declan's face was upturned, mouth parted a little, lit from below.
He looked like one of the old paintings Leon's mother used to tear from magazines, something devotional made of bone and breath instead of paint. The urge was a tide, and Leon was done pretending it wasn't pulling him. You are listening to a narrated story on the Mangalove channel. Don't forget to share your thoughts about today's story. He set the lantern free. It rose and took their wish with it. Leon's hand didn't fall. He brought it up slow to Declan's jaw, his fingertips grazing stubble. Declan's breath hitched. Leon drew closer, tasting smoke and sugar and pine in the dark. The first brush of mouths was barely pressure, a test sensed and returned. Declan didn't chase, he met. Leon lingered, then pressed again, deeper this time, because to do anything less felt like lying. Declan answered with a sound that started low and it almost surprised. Heat trickled from touch to touch like a fuse line. Jaw to lips to breath shared at the back of his throat. Leon opened for him a fraction. Declan swallowed like asking. Leon made a small hum at the base of his tongue that made Declan's fingers flex where they hovered, not touching.
And then slowly, so slowly, Declan's hand found Leon's hip, thumb setting down in the hollow there like he'd been searching for it since the first broken window. The kiss deepened and stayed gentle. It was all damp heat and patience, a learning more than a taking. Leon tasted smoke from the lantern, cardamom from his own breath, something distinctly Declan that made his lungs greedy. Declan's thumb traced a slow circle against the knit of the sweater at Leon's hip bone and then stilled, asking without words. Leon tipped his weight forward until his chest met Declan's chest. The answer was yes. It was yes, like a softened mouth and the sound he made at the contact. They might have gone farther than a kiss. The cliff edge was right bare, the view astonishing, if not for the laugh that burst close and bright as a firecracker. "Get it, Ronan!" someone yelled. Another voice wolf whistled in a way that made Leon's spine stiffen and Declan go very, very still. Leon pulled back, breathless, laughter fraying his frustration because the universe was ridiculous and consistent. Declan pressed his forehead to Leon's for a second, a small apology disguised as closeness, and then turned. A group of packmates stood at the mouth of the path, caught between delight and chagrin. Ronan had both fists in the air like a referee signaling a goal. Declan's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Enough. The sound of it wasn't a growl, it was a gate. Something in the group clicked. Ronan's hands lowered, his grin slanting to sheepish. The others stepped back, making space. May appeared from nowhere, smacked the back of Ronan's head lightly, and pointed toward the skewers as penance. The teasing blew itself out like a spark on damp wood. Leon did what any reasonable person would do in that moment. He yanked Declan's hoodie from around his waist and shoved it over his head in a flurry of fabric. He peered out the collar like a turtle. The neckline fell somewhere mid-thigh. The sleeves swallowed his fingers. He glared through the gap. Deadly, it only made the nearby onlookers choke back their amusement even harder. Declan, traitor that he was, bit his lip to keep from smiling and made a muffled sound. Anyway, he leaned in, his mouth near the edge of the hood and hairline, his voice warm enough to melt embarrassment to something else. "You're devastating." Leon elbowed him. "You're in the doghouse." Declan's eyes lit with an unwise pun that Leon cut off by tugging the hood forward so it covered half his face. He marched past the cluster like a tiny, furious comet, Declan in his gravity. On the path, the sounds blurred. Music, laughter, the occasional crackle of fire. They took the long way to the road, under branches that tried to lace them in. The night felt different now, like a tuning fork had been struck, and the hum still vibrated in Leon's bones. Their hands swung independently, almost brushing, then not. Leon didn't force it. Declan didn't force anything. It occurred to Leon that demand and desire were not synonyms, and he'd been waiting to learn that for years without knowing it. At the cabin steps, Leon stopped. Wind combed the lake and then combed his hair. The porch light was off, but the curtains glowed faint from the lamp in the kitchen. He turned and looked at Declan, the sweater swallowing his shape, the hood pushing his curls messily forward, the taste of lantern smoke still on his tongue, and something more urgent beneath it. Maybe not just full moons, he said, the words arcing out and hanging there between them like a lantern that refused to drift away. Declan's answering smile unfurled, slow and bright, like sunrise had been waiting and finally remembered how to happen. I'm great at Tuesdays. Leon startled into laughter, the kind that loosened things, the kind that felt like relief. He tugged the hood off, pushed hair back from his forehead, and leaned forward to press one more kiss to the corner of Declan's mouth, quick and sure. Not a test. An answer. Good, he said, because you owe me skewers and about 16 apologies. Declan's hand came up, hovered, and then, after a tiny glance at Leon's eyes for permission, settled light at the back of his neck. Skewers. I can do the rest. I'll spend as long as it takes to pay. He didn't try to follow Leon inside, though Leon had half expected, half feared he would. He just stood on the step, 1 foot lower, looking up as if the angles pleased him, the night turning his eyes pale silver again. Pine and amber curled out of him and into Leon's lungs. For a breath of time, the world was disturbingly simple. Good night, Declan, Leon said. Good night, Leon, Declan returned, as if names were vows and good nights meant see you, not goodbye. When Leon shut the door, he leaned his forehead against it for a second, smiling into the wood like a secret might see itself there and accept being kept. He could still feel the slow circle a thumb had drawn at his hip, even through the sweater and the nights and the interruption and the ridiculous hoodie. He could still hear Declan's voice saying, I'll learn to want less loudly, and know without needing to untangle it entirely that wanting wasn't the problem, how you wanted was. Outside, feet creaked on the top step and then receded. Leon waited until the sounds were gone and then crossed the kitchen, palms pressed to the table's edge. The house smelled like cardamom, wet wool, and the faintest trace of frost pine left behind. He inhaled slowly. It felt like a storm meeting a hearth. Wind at his back, fire at his front, home somewhere in the middle, where breath eased and stayed. He flipped off the lamp. Lantern light from the clearing still flickered weak and far through the trees, like stars arguing softly about their brightness. Leon grinned into the dark and let himself fall into sleep with his mouth remembering and his chest oddly softly light. Chapter 4. Claws, Clothes, and Confessions. Declan showed up on a Tuesday. It wasn't a moon night. It wasn't an emergency. It was just Tuesday. Leon opened his cabin door to find him standing there, hair damp, chest bare, jogging shorts hanging low on his hips, a shirt balled in one fist. His skin glowed faint from exertion, breath visible in the cool air. Leon blinked once, then twice. Declan. Leon, Declan greeted, smiling that infuriating sunshine after storm smile. Leon leaned against the doorframe. Is there a reason you're auditioning for an energy drink commercial at my doorstep? Laundry emergency? Declan said, as if it were the most natural explanation in the world. You own what? 2 shirts. 3, Declan said solemnly. 1 still drying. Leon sighed. Do you ever consider, I don't know, planning ahead? Wolves don't plan, Declan replied, teasing. We adapt. That explains a lot, Leon muttered, stepping aside. Fine, come in before my neighbor calls the police again. Declan grinned and padded inside barefoot, smelling like pine needles, rain, and the kind of clean sweat that should have been illegal. Leon's brain betrayed him by cataloging every muscle flex under his skin as Declan moved to hang his shirt by the fireplace. When Declan caught Leon's look, he smirked. You're staring. I'm judging, Leon said flatly. Judging looks a lot like checking me out. Leon threw him a towel. You're insufferable. Declan caught it one-handed, his grin widening. And you're blushing. Leon turned away, muttering, I hate that you can smell emotions. Can't help it, Declan said, stepping closer, his voice softening. You always smell like burnt sugar when you're flustered. Leon's pulse jumped. He smacked the towel into Declan's chest. Congratulations! You've won today's flirt war.
Now go shower before I use silverware as a deterrent. Declan laughed, deep and warm, and disappeared down the hall. Leon exhaled slowly, as if it would steady the thunder in his chest. It didn't. The storm rolled in that night like a tantrum. Thunder cracked across the lake. Rain pounded the roof. The power flickered once, then died, leaving only the fireplace glow. Leon lit a few candles, the soft gold light painting the cabin in shadows and warmth. Declan sat cross-legged on the floor, poking the fire with an iron poker. His hair was damp again, curls clinging to his temples. He'd found one of Leon's sweaters, slightly too small, stretched across his shoulders, and it made something deep inside Leon tighten. "Sorry for the blackout," Leon said, bringing over a blanket. "Welcome to human weather." Declan looked up at him, that faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I like it. Smells alive." He took the blanket when Leon handed it over, but instead of wrapping himself, he opened it and held it out. "Half?" Leon hesitated, then sighed, sitting beside him. The blanket fell over both of them, warm and a little too intimate. The firelight threw amber across Declan's skin. The rain softened the silence between thunderclaps. Declan turned the poker idly, his voice quieter. "I used to think the mark was everything, that it made the connection, the pull, but that was a lie." Leon tilted his head. "You're just figuring that out?" Declan's eyes found his, steady and searching. "The mark didn't make this. You did." Something unguarded flickered in Leon's chest. Something that scared him in the best way. He tried to deflect. "So your werewolf libido is just coincidence?" Declan huffed out a laugh, blushing faintly. "Not just that, it's you. You make me want to slow down and actually learn someone, instead of just—" He stopped, caught himself, and smiled shyly. "You know, instincts." Leon raised a brow. "You're telling me you want to study me?"
Declan met his gaze with a teasing glint. "If that's what it takes." Leon chuckled, shaking his head. "You're impossible." Declan leaned in close enough that Leon could feel the heat radiating from his skin. "I'm learning," he murmured. "That's progress." Thunder rolled outside, a low, distant heartbeat. Later, Leon found Declan standing in the bathroom doorway, toweling his hair. The storm had soaked him again when he'd gone to fetch firewood, droplets still tracing lines down his neck. "You're going to catch hypothermia," Leon scolded. Declan smiled faintly. "You'll warm me up." Leon threw him another towel. "You're insufferable." Declan caught it and stepped closer. "You keep saying that, and you keep proving it." Leon reached for the towel, tugging it from Declan's hands and standing on tiptoe to dry his hair himself. Declan froze at first, then his eyes softened, lashes lowering. Leon's fingers brushed over the edge of his temple, the curve of his jaw. The air thickened. Declan's hand came up slowly, wrapping around Leon's wrist. He turned it gently, pressing his lips against the pulse point there. A kiss, light, reverent, lingering. Leon's breath caught. He didn't move away. When Declan lifted his head, their eyes met. For a long, charged heartbeat, neither spoke. Then they both stepped closer. The towel slipped from Leon's hands. Declan's palms found his back, tracing the line of his spine through the fabric. Leon's fingers curled into the edge of Declan's sweater, pulling him down. Their mouths met like a sigh. It wasn't hurried. It wasn't even wild. It was warm, uncoiling, slow, the kind of kiss that rewrote quiet rooms. Declan's lips were soft and deliberate, moving with patience that made Leon tremble. Leon opened for him just enough to taste heat and rain. When they broke apart, Leon's forehead rested against Declan's, breath shallow. The towel rack behind them wobbled dangerously as Declan's elbow brushed it. Then, with perfect comedic timing, it fell, clanging to the floor. Leon snorted. Declan winced. Then they both laughed until the tension cracked open into something easy and bright. Afterward, they ended up on the couch wrapped in a nest of blankets. The fire burned low, painting them in half shadow. Rain drummed steadily against the roof. No longer fierce, just steady, rhythmic, almost soothing. Declan traced idle patterns over Leon's arm with one finger, not claiming, just existing near. The flicker of the flames caught the silver in his eyes. He leaned closer, lips brushing Leon's temple before he murmured, "Tell me to slow down if your heart wants breath." Leon's chest tightened. He could feel the heat of him, the steady pulse that matched his own. "My heart always wants breath," Leon whispered. Declan smiled softly and leaned back. Respect was written in every inch of him. He brushed a thumb over Leon's knuckles. "Then we stop." Leon exhaled, realizing he hadn't known how badly he'd needed that choice until now. That right there made me fall harder. Declan froze, then laughed quietly. "I'll take that as a good thing." Leon turned his head to look at him, smiling faintly. "It's the best thing." Declan's grin was all warmth, no pride. He kissed Leon's hand once gently, and then tucked him closer. They stayed that way until the storm faded to a soft patter, the world around them exhaling at last. Morning came with pale gold light and the faint scent of rain-soaked earth. The power flickered back on, and the cabin hummed awake again. Leon found Declan already in the kitchen disastrously attempting pancakes. There was more batter on the counter than in the pan. "You're a menace," Leon said fondly. Declan looked over his shoulder, wearing one of Leon's aprons tied crookedly around his waist. "Breakfast in bed," he corrected. "Kind of. That's technically breakfast near the bed." Declan flipped a misshapen pancake and grinned. "Close enough." Leon leaned against the doorframe, watching him, barefoot, hair messy, sunlight threading through the room around him. He looked like something from a dream Leon hadn't known he'd been having. He stepped forward, stole a piece of pancake, and grimaced. "Burnt." Declan took a bite too, shrugged, and kept eating. "Tastes like effort," Leon laughed softly. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe, but you're smiling." Leon tried to hide it, failed miserably. "Shut up." Declan leaned over and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. "Can't, it's Tuesday." Leon threw a towel at him. It missed on purpose. They sat down to eat the lopsided pancakes with too much syrup. Outside, the world gleamed clean and new. Declan reached across the table, brushing his thumb over a smudge of syrup on Leon's lip before licking it away from his own. Leon's pulse fluttered. That's not fair. Declan's grin softened into something quiet. "Neither are you." Leon didn't have an answer to that. He didn't need one. The peace was short-lived, though. Leon's phone buzzed across the table. A notification glowed on the screen. "Hunter Watch Local. Seen wolf activity near lakeside cabins. Stay alert." Leon's heart dropped. Declan saw it too, his eyes narrowing. "They're getting closer." Leon looked up, meeting his gaze. "Then what do we do?" Declan reached across the table, covering Leon's hand with his. "We face it together." The simplicity of it landed like a vow. Outside, the clouds cleared completely, sunlight skilling through the glass. And as Leon looked at Declan, shirtless, smiling, covered in flour, holding his hand with steady calm, he realized it wasn't the storm that terrified him anymore. It was the thought of weathering life without him. Chapter 5. The Window, the Moon, and the Morning After. The moon rose over the lake like it had been waiting for them. Leon sat on the edge of his bed, pretending he wasn't waiting too, pretending he hadn't checked the clock 3 times in the last hour, or straightened the curtains facing the forest path. The air was silver blue, heavy with pine and the soft hum of night. He tried to read, failed, and finally gave up pretending. A soft knock came at the window. He smiled before he even turned. Declan stood outside, haloed by moonlight and mist, not naked, not half-dressed, but properly clothed. Jeans, dark sweater, a paper bag in one hand, and a fistful of wildflowers in the other. His hair was damp again, curls glinting silver where they caught the light. Leon crossed the room, pushed the window open, and leaned against the sill. "You realize there's a door," he said, voice softer than his words. Declan grinned, holding up the offerings like a peace treaty. "Old habits and bribes. What's in the bag?" "Breakfast for later. You don't strike me as a night snacker."
Leon's heart twisted in quiet affection. And the flowers? Declan's grin tilted. Those are for you. Leon took them, still smiling, and inhaled. Damp earth and something wild and green. You're learning. I'm trying, Declan said. Thought maybe the window could mean something new this time. Leon reached out and brushed his fingers against Declan's jaw. It stopped being weird when it started being you. Declan's breath hitched at that, eyes softening. For a heartbeat, they just looked at each other. Man and werewolf, human and myth, something like love flickering between them like candlelight. Leon stepped back and held out a hand. Come in before the moon convinces you to jump through again. Declan took it, climbing through carefully this time. Their fingers stayed laced long after his feet touched the floor. Outside, the forest whispered. The moon painted the world in silver. They walked down to the lake side by side, the bag of breakfast tucked under Declan's arm and the flowers in Leon's.
The air was too still. It made Leon's instincts prickle. A rustle came from the tree line. Declan stiffened immediately, stepping in front of him. His eyes flashed that lupine silver. "Stay behind me," he murmured. Leon's stomach dropped. Hunters? Declan's nostrils flared. No metal, no traps, but someone's there. Two shadows moved between the trees. Declan crouched low, a growl rumbling at the base of his throat. Leon reached out and caught his arm. Wait. The shadows emerged. Two figures, broad-shouldered and alert, but unarmed. Declan straightened, recognition flickering. Ronan, May. Nice reflexes, May said dryly, stepping into the light. She held up her hands. Trail's clear, Stat. We've been sweeping the ridge since dusk. Hunter reports were a false alarm. Old scent, no fresh tracks. Leon exhaled in relief. Ronan grinned and tossed Declan a small leather pouch. Moon salt for your windows. Keep the pests out. Thanks, Declan said, catching it. You didn't have to. We did, May interrupted, glancing at Leon with a small, genuine smile. You two have become something of a pack project. Leon snorted softly. I'm honored, I think. Be honored, Ronan said. He hasn't smiled this much in years. Declan threw him a look. Leave before I reconsider that appreciation. Ronan saluted and disappeared into the trees with May, laughter echoing faintly behind them. The woods fell quiet again, but the tension had gone. Only the lake shimmered, the moonlight trembling over its surface. Declan's hand found Leon's. They're right, you know. About what? You've changed me. Leon squeezed his fingers. Maybe you just needed an audience. Declan smiled. Or maybe I needed a reason. They stood like that for a while, watching the lake breathe silver and shadow, until Leon tugged gently on his hand. Come inside. The cabin was warm again, firelight licking the walls, the air smelling faintly of pine and cardamom. Leon stopped at the doorway to his bedroom, looking back at Declan with a teasing half-smile. So, no moon excuses this time. Declan's eyes glimmered. No instincts, no marks, just you. Leon tilted his head. And what if I told you to stay? Declan stepped closer, his voice low and reverent. Then I'd stay. Leon reached for his collar, fingers curling into the fabric, pulling him closer until their lips almost touched. Then stay and prove it. Declan kissed him. It started slow, almost shy, then deepened as if the moon itself leaned closer to listen. His hands found Leon's waist. Leon's found his chest, feeling the slow, steady heartbeat under his palm. The world narrowed to warmth and breath and the faint rustle of fabric. They stumbled toward the bed, laughter breaking between kisses. Declan's hand framed Leon's jaw, thumb brushing the corner of his mouth before tracing down his throat. The sound of rain from a distant cloud reached them through the open window, soft and rhythmic, nature's lullaby. Leon's sweater came off, Declan's followed. Moonlight spilled across their skin, pale gold and silver meeting in a soft collision. They didn't rush. Every touch was a question, every breath an answer.
When Declan's hand slid to Leon's back, Leon arched into it, sighing his name like a promise. The bed creaked softly. A laugh escaped them both, small and breathless. Declan's forehead pressed to Leon's. "You okay?" he whispered. Leon nodded. Better than okay. The room filled with the quiet language of touch, the slide of hands, the rhythm of movement, the catch of breath that sounded dangerously close to worship. When Declan kissed the curve of Leon's shoulder, the world stilled. They moved together like something remembered, not claimed, not commanded, chosen. When the moment broke, it did so gently, with laughter, tangled sheets, and the low hum of satisfaction that felt like peace. Outside, the moon hung high and whole, watching. Morning arrived soft and gold.
Leon woke to the smell of coffee and the weight of a warm arm around his waist. He didn't open his eyes right away. He just listened to the steady rhythm of Declan's breathing, to the birds arguing outside, to the quiet stretch of sunlight moving across the sheets. When he finally turned, Declan was awake too, propped on one elbow, smiling lazily, his hair stuck out in every direction. "Morning," Leon hummed. "You're still here." "Get used to it," Declan said, voice rough with sleep. Leon laughed quietly and leaned forward to kiss him once, twice, then again until they were both grinning. Declan chased the last one like a game, catching Leon's bottom lip between his gently before letting go. "You're ridiculous," Leon murmured. "You like ridiculous." Leon didn't argue. They eventually made it to the kitchen. Declan reheated the breakfast he'd brought, croissants slightly crushed but still good, and Leon brewed coffee. The scent of cardamom filled the room again, familiar and grounding. As they sat by the window, Leon noticed movement across the road. Mrs. Haddad was watering her plants, her gaze very deliberately not on them, which meant, of course, that she was absolutely watching. Leon grinned, waved cheerfully, and received a flustered wave back before the curtains snapped shut. Declan snorted into his mug. "You're cruel." "She started it," Leon said, smirking. The window behind them stood open, sunlight streaming through the repaired frame. Declan reached out absently, tracing a finger along the sill. "You ever think about how it all started here?" Leon followed the motion. "A naked man breaking in through my kitchen? Hard to forget." "And yet," Declan said softly, "you still opened the window." Leon leaned his head against his shoulder. "I told you, it stopped being weird when it started being you." Declan's smile deepened. He tilted his head until his cheek brushed Leon's hair. "You make everything worth staying human for." Leon's chest ached, but in the best way. He set his mug down, turned, and kissed him again. Slow, morning soft, the kind that tasted like belonging. Weeks later, the moon rose full again. Leon was reading in bed when he heard it. The gentle, familiar knock at his window. He didn't even look up right away. A smile curved his lips. When he did glance over, there was Declan, leaning on the sill, hair wind-tousled, a half-smile playing across his face. He was dressed properly this time, though the hoodie looked suspiciously like Leon's. "You're late," Leon said. "Traffic," Declan answered. Deadpan, Leon rolled his eyes, stood, and crossed the room. He didn't hesitate this time. He unlatched the window and pushed it open wide. Declan climbed through easily, his hands finding Leon's waist in one practiced motion. They laughed into each other's necks, the sound quiet and content, the air smelling of cardamom and pine and something that was entirely theirs. The moonlight caught them, two silhouettes framed in silver, Storm and Hearth, both whole in their own strange way. Leon pressed his forehead to Declan's, eyes closed. "You're never going to use the door, are you?" Declan grinned. "Where's the romance in that?" Leon's laugh was soft, fond, inevitable. He reached up, traced the line of Declan's jaw with his thumb, and whispered, "You're impossible." Declan kissed him once, the kind that made promises without saying them aloud. "And you opened the window anyway." Leon's smile grew. They stood there for a long moment, breathing the same air, the same quiet peace. And when Declan pulled him close, the world outside fell away. "He still shows up at my window every full moon. Now, I open it first." Thank you for listening to Mangalove Storytelling. If you find the story meaningful and enjoyable, please remember to give Mangalove a like and subscribe so you won't miss the newest stories. Wishing you a wonderful day.